Hello there. Welcome to our little shop. And, well, it's Monday. And that means it's time for another fretwork challenge. Gentleman brought this well-loved 66 jazz bass in to do some fretwork on. This gentleman's a previous customer as well. We'll go back into that in a little bit, but anyway, he brought this 66 in. It's had some neck issues. This is not going to be a straight refret. But anyway, to give you a look at the bass here. And by the way, for those that don't know this, bass players are a little shorted here in this shop. We actually run on a ratio of 20 guitars to 1 bass. So for those that feel like you're being scrimped on videos, just do not have decent material for you. So anyway, but this ought to be a good one. This is going to be full of challenges. So first of all, like I say, 66. Matching headstock. He also mentioned that his tuners were a little stiff, so we're going to see if we can do something about that for him. We need a refret. Years ago, one of the legends in the Maryland area had done some work on this, and his frets up here are 15 thousandths tall at the heel. What the story is, we actually have a good bit of kick up here at the end of the fingerboard. So they mowed the frets off really bad. Like I say, I measured them here at 15 to 13 thousandths high. So there's no fret left there hardly. You can see how flat they are. There's no fret. And it varies. To make things more difficult, we actually have an S-curve. So we've got a kick up here. It drops down here. There's a hump here. And it drops back down up here. So that has to be corrected. He was really concerned about the binding. He was also concerned about having the nibs left on the fingerboard binding at the end of the frets, but there's really no nibs left. They've been filed off and worn off really bad anyway. But something else that concerns me about this bass is, from my years of doing warranty work on Fender stuff, I know that the frets were shot in from the side before the binding was put on. They stopped using that procedure, that process, in the early 80s. So what that means is the fret was shot in from the side and it was never put in from the top. Now, the only way to take these frets out from the side is to take the binding off. We're not doing that. Like I say, he's really concerned about the binding. He wants to keep it as original as possible. And we don't blame him. This is a very valuable bass. So what I'm going to have to do here is break my own rule and pull these frets very carefully from the top, which I don't want to do, but I have no choice. We just have to be really careful. He also had concerns about the tone pot. He said that it didn't work real well after he cleaned it. I've actually checked it and it seems to work fine. I think what the problem is going to get us another issue here in a minute. I think what the issue is these strings are just so dead and his pickup volumes vary quite a bit, is why he's not hearing a difference in the tone control. It does work. He was also concerned, he's had 2 pots changed in. He didn't want to change the tone pot unless he had to. Again, he's trying to keep things original. Getting back to what I was talking to you about the volume on the pickups, he also made a comment that the rear pickups seemed to be weak. So first thing I did was measure it, make sure it was still working, because some of the old Fender pickups do have a bad habit of corroding and eating the wire up and then become a capacitor microphone. in which case your resistance will be very, very high. The pickup will still work, but it will be very low volume and very thin. But I think his problem here is pickup heights, because the rear pickup is way too low. So the front pickup's overpowering it. Give you a look here at the back. Like I said, it's well loved. There's our serial number. So it's been used, but this base is still, like I say, very valuable. So what we are going to do is to start tearing this down. We're going to take the neck off this body and put it on my surrogate body for my neck jig. In fact, this neck's going to get moved around quite a bit. It's going to be on and off the surrogate body while I'm doing the various stages of this work, because it's just easier. But we're going to get it off the original body here, set it aside, and continue on. Something else he mentioned, someone else had worked on it one other time, and we don't know what this is. They look like plastic dots, almost like side inlay dots. He wants me to see if I can do something about that. So, I think we've pretty much covered everything here. So, let's roll our sleeves up and get to work. Alright, let's get you caught up. That was about an hour. And we've got the frets all out. That actually went better than I expected. There was a little pull out here and there, but considering taking these frets out from the top instead of from the side, not bad. The nut come out pretty clean. I've also found there's some loose binding up here. But a lot of little things we're going to find while we're working on this. But I also found out I was going to rough level this fingerboard before I put it on the neck jig. But there's a very nasty hump right through here, right around the 5th and 7th fret. The kick up and so on back here didn't look so bad after all. Actually, I've got some naphtha on this that's drying off. That's why the fingerboard's changing while we're looking at it. I did that to sand off the fur here from pulling the frets. But so it looks like the next move with this is actually put on my surrogate body and get it on the neck jig and string this up and see how much of this hump we actually have to take out and how much of it will disappear with string tension. The trick with jazz necks is there's not a lot of wood there, so you have to be pretty careful about not removing any more wood than necessary. But away we go. Okay, we've made it to our neck jig. I had this strung up and jigged up here properly. And this is one of the reasons I really like neck jigs. I'd made a comment earlier that the kick-up wasn't that apparent with the strings off of it. Well, let me fill you in on a story from years and years and years ago. One of the things that made me a believer in a neck jig was once upon a time I was refretting a precision bass that I had leveled fingerboard up without the aid of a neck jig. It's before I had mine. I thought everything was fine. Did a great job leveling fingerboard up. But when you tune the guitar up to pitch, it would kink here and the kick up would reappear because the neck's being pulled up here. So that is why I like to use a neck jig. It's very apparent how much kick up we have back here once you put string tension on it. Now up here is where our other problems are. We have another nasty hump here and here. It's going to have to come out, but a lot of it actually come out when you put string tension on it. So there again, handy to have a neck jig. So what we're going to do is focus on this in two sections. We're going to take this kick up back here out first because basically the neck's supposed to be straight from like the 9th fret back. So we're going to take care of that. Then we're going to focus on getting this taken care of. Then we'll blend it all together and hopefully have a really nice straight neck. So, time to put the dust mask on, make a lot of sanding dust. Let the good times roll. Well, so far, we've got almost a half hour in here for this leveling process. Things are shaping up pretty well. In fact, you can see we've made quite a little pile of dirt here and here and here. We've been sanding a good bit. We still have some leveling to do. There's still a couple problem spots up here. But by and large, the kick up back here is taken care of. So little bit by little bit, we're getting this shaped up. So we're going to put a little bit more tension in here. And then we should be well on our way. Well, we've been sanding away here and doing a lot of shop vacuuming. But we actually have this fingerboard taken care of. We have it perfectly level. Want to make sure we didn't get too low over here with these dots. So we got the kick up taken care of. The humps taken care of. This neck is shaping up really well. So now something else that bugged him really bad was these three little dots right here. That whoever worked on it at one point did. We don't know why. But they seem to really bug him, so he wanted me to try to do something about it. So before we finish working on the fingerboard here and getting it prepped for the frets, we'll get this taken care of. Well, we've moved on here. We've actually got our first 220 sanding going on here. Get this light up here a little bit. I've been focused on something. Anyway, so remember up here where these three little holes were? Well, if you look right here, I've inlaid a piece of rosewood right here. What do you think? Yeah, you can see if you look close. It looks a whole lot better than three dots sticking out there. So, okay, moving on here. I'm going to continue sanding this, start cleaning my fret slots out. Well, we've made a little progress. We've got all the frets in, except for the last 5. I'm going to remount this to do those. But anyway, we've made some progress here. What I'm doing, I actually have a hybrid way of doing a vintage refret here on things like this. I do a lot on electrics. So let me explain a little bit here to you. I was talking about this hybrid fretting method I use. I like to use like tight bond wood glue. You know, when you're doing these vintage style refrets, a lot of companies don't use glue to start with, but I think it's necessary. There's a lot of reasons for it, and it can actually kind of help it out, make the job easier for you. So anyway, what I do with this hybrid is I cut the frets to fit. But anyway.
Squirrel.
So anyway, where were we? What I like to do is cut the frets to size, and they're overbent slightly. I do that with the fret bender. I'll show you how to do the ends in a few. But anyway, what we do is actually do the typical tap-in hammer method, and then I back it up with my old homemade 30-some-year-old fret clamp, and then clamp them in place for extra insurance. And of course, I check along the way, make sure everything's level, the fret rocker and all that. But I'm going to try to give you a rough idea here what I do. I'm going to go ahead and fit one fret and install it, and I'm going to move on. So here we go. So we first trim that off with fret nibblers. And usually I would do this over the trash, but I want you to be able to see it. So we cut that right up the line. And regardless of how well this looks, I think it's still a little ragged here. And I like a little bit better fit across the binding. But before we do anything about that, I straighten the tang a little bit. You gotta watch it don't slip off, because it actually bends it a little bit when you snip that tang. Then I take a file and sharpen the edge of it so it'll slide smoothly without having a burr on the end of it. Then we take it to another location. Hang on. And I use another small file over here at device to actually finish off filing that edge down where that tang was, where there's none of it left, without getting into the fret itself. Come on. I actually have a little fret block made to do this in, but you can't do it when they're bent. So there you go. You can see we filed that off. So that fits down perfectly without any little edges on it. They work a little tight bond in there. Center of the fret. Tap the edges down first. Gently work your way across it. It also helps not to think about somebody you don't care about. Think happy thoughts. You don't want to pound those in. Okay, that's how we do one. So I'm going to continue on here real quick, do those other 5, and get clamped up. So you can see here we have it clamped up. So we're going to have to wait a little while. That's as far as we can go on this for the few minutes. Probably got to give this probably an hour or so. Let glue set up a little bit. In the meantime, I'm going to do something else. Right here is an issue for me. I am convinced that I see a lot of swelling right here above these truss rod nuts. And I think it's because moisture going in and swelling the fingerboard. So what I'm going to do is take this nut out and seal the inside of that with lacquer. Then after that's dry, re-lube the nut and put it back in. So this is my second coat. We want to work all the way in there to the washer seat for the nut. Get that well coated. You can actually see the difference in the color in there. So anyway, let that dry for a while, then we'll carry on. We'll get this nut lubed and back in there. And by that time, we'll be ready to trim some frets, start on all that, get this fret job finished up. Meantime, I'm going to turn my attention to a few of these other problems. So this is no biggie. He was talking about his pickups not being balanced. The rear one's way too low. And as I said before, the foam that supports these is all dried out. I bet we're going to find it's very hard. Nasty. Yeah. So what we're going to do is replace his foam. These are glued down to the shielding plate. I'm going to need some assistance there. Well, there's a tack there. Okay. All right. They didn't just solder these in like they do a lot of times. A lot of times you use window glazing clips. That one's going to tack in it. While we're here, in fact, I think we're going to up the game on that a little bit. This is actually Trick fingerboard cleaner. I use a lot of Trick products. I've been using their guitar polish for probably about 30 years now. And sorry everybody else, but I seem to think it works best for me for anything else. Guys are constantly asking me, what kind of polish are you using on those guitars, man? Because they're really coming out of here really clean. Well, you can thank Mike at Trick. Where is it? Okay, fine. We'll start this one. Okay, that's one, so you get the picture. There is no use to show you the other one. So, as soon as I get this other one switched out here and clean the output jack, we're ready to stick the neck back on. Alright, well, let's catch you up. We've had some more time involved here. In the meantime, I've actually trimmed the fret ends, beveled them properly, neck jigged this again, and leveled the frets. It was quite a little flurry of activity. So we actually have this ready to finish the fret dress on now. They've all been leveled, top sanded, so we're ready to rock and roll in this fret dress.
Take a second here to point something out to you. Take a look at these fret ends. If you look how well they fit against the binding, that is why I go through that extra trouble.
We have the fretwork done. So that's all ready. In the meantime, we were touching this up. So while we're still on a neck jig here and this is secure, I'm going to go ahead and sand and buff that little spot out in front of the nut. I think we're going to be able to save his original nut. That'd be cool. Let's see what happens. So we're winding this job down. We're about 8 hours in so far. It's been a job. Like I said, we've had to true up this fingerboard with all the nasty humps and bumps and dips and kick ups and everything else, plus do the refret. So we're down now to touching this spot up. We've already done some electronics work. We still have to fix his tuning machines, but we're winding down. So I thought I'd give you another piece of free information here. The owner had complained about the tuners being stiff. And yes, these are stiff. So I'm going to clue you in here to a few little tricks that I do. You're going to need 3 things. Some oil, some Big Ben's nut sauce. Yes, I pay for mine. It's not given to me. And some breakable Loctite. Okay? Thread locker blue. So to show you the process here, first thing I do, a drop of oil here, drop of oil here, here, and here. Yes, I've already got oil all over me. These are going to be a little stiff regardless, just because of the way they're made. But we're going to get them loosened up as well as possible. We do not want to get carried away with the oil because we don't want it running out all the time. So just a couple drops. Okay, moving on. This is where the nut sauce comes in. A little bit here. A little. Okay, then a little bit here. A couple little spots. Put the gear back in the tuner. Put the shaft back in. Another little bit here and here. Uh-oh. The thread locker lid's locked. We put a little bit of thread lock on our threads here. And this will break loose with a little bit of heat from a low wattage soldering irons if you guys are worried about it. It's not a problem. I use it all the time. Get this started. Put this down snug but not overly tight. There's one. So there you go. That's how you do it. That's my little trick for that. So I'm going to show you one. You just repeat it for as many as you got.
There you go. There's a freebie for you.
Well, there we go. We are complete. Anyway, so we've got a refret. We replaced the foam in these pickups, cleaned these controls, cleaned these output jack. Did string height, intonation, pickup height. Pickups actually match volume-wise now. Of course, the refret. We were able to salvage the original nut. So that's a plus. And remember our touch up here in the fingerboard? Can you find it? Anyway. So, like I say, this one's done. This has been 10 hours worth of work spread out over 3 days. But it's finished. I'm going to keep it for another week and let it settle and keep checking it. The truss rod adjusted up perfectly. The action's great on it. I've got a regular standard fender action on it. The neck is dead straight. I do have about 10 thousandths relief in the neck, but other than that, this neck jig, truing up this fingerboard and everything was an incredible job on this. So it worked out really well. I'm really happy with this one. So there you go. Mostly original 1966 Fender Jazz bass. Put back in service. This neck has been out of service for a couple decades now. But we're all good now. Okay, so let's give you a quick run through here, just so you guys know that it worked, that I have to know. So anyway, here we go. There's a tone control. Front volume. There's the rear volume. So you see they're kind of matched. Every note plays, no buzzes. Anyway, that's enough of that. So, my hands hurt. Lots of fretwork. Anyway, we've got a standard Fender action on it. We've got it all back together. This gentleman can get his 66 Jazz bass back and get it back into service. So, there you go. Until next time,